The air on the alien planet was thin, cold, and heavy with the smell of burnt metal. War had ended only days ago, and the field still looked like a graveyard of machines. The human relief team had arrived to help rebuild what was left, to fix power lines, restore water, and bring food for the wounded. Among them was Ethan Cole, a quiet human engineer. He wasn't a soldier or a leader, just a man who believed that kindness was stronger than war. His hands were covered in dust as he repaired a broken generator near the alien outpost. Around him worked the alien survivors, tall, silver-skinned beings with glowing eyes and armor that looked older than Earth's history. They were called the Sarathi, proud warriors known for their strict honor codes and cold silence. Ethan noticed one of them sitting alone by a ruined pillar. A young female soldier, her armor cracked and her eyes dim. She looked strong but tired, her movements slow like she hadn't eaten in days. Her name was Soraya. Ethan opened his ration pack, the kind humans used on long missions. Tasteless, but enough to survive. As he chewed, he looked at Soraya again. Her hand trembled as she tried to lift a piece of metal debris. Then she gave up and leaned back, exhausted. Something inside Ethan stirred. He stood, walked toward her, and knelt down. "You should eat," he said softly. Soraya looked up, her golden eyes narrowing. "That is not your concern, human." Ethan smiled a little. "Maybe not. But you look like you haven't had food in a while." He tore a piece from his ration bar, simple, brown, nothing special, and held it out to her. For a moment, Soraya didn't move. She stared at the food like it was a weapon. The air between them grew tense, silent. The other Sarathi nearby stopped working, turning their heads toward the two. Ethan frowned, confused. "It's just food," he said. "Take it." Soraya's eyes widened slightly. Her throat moved as if she were swallowing hard. She slowly extended her hand and touched the ration bar with shaking fingers. "Human," she whispered. "Do you understand what you just did?" Ethan tilted his head. "What do you mean?" She looked at the piece of food in her hand, small, broken, shared, and then back at him. "On my world," she said quietly, "to share food is to share life. It is a marriage proposal." The silence that followed was sharp as a blade. Every alien around them froze. A soldier dropped his tool. A commander's eyes flashed in disbelief. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. Ethan blinked, a confused laugh escaping his lips. "A marriage? What?" But Soraya wasn't joking. She stood slowly, her tall figure towering over him, and held the food like it was sacred. "You have offered me union before witnesses. By the ancient law of Serath, you have claimed me as your life bond." Ethan's mouth went dry. "Wait, what?" "I didn't mean, but it was too late." The commander, an older Sarathi male with heavy armor, stepped forward. His voice echoed like thunder. "The law is clear. A human has made a bond offer to one of our own. The rite must be completed." Ethan stepped back, raising his hands. No, it was a mistake. I was just being polite." The alien commander's gaze turned sharp. "There are no mistakes in the eyes of the code. Deny the bond and the female will be marked for dishonor." "Dishonor?" Ethan asked, panic growing in his chest. Soraya lowered her gaze. Her voice trembled. "If I am rejected, I must answer it with my life." Ethan froze. The ration bar suddenly felt like a curse. Around him, the Sarathi murmured in their language, their voices filled with judgment. He looked at Soraya again, proud, broken, but afraid. She didn't want to die, and somehow she didn't want him to reject her either. He tried to speak, but words failed. How could a small act of kindness turn into something so impossible? The commander nodded to two guards. "Prepare the bonding circle," he ordered. "At dawn they will complete the union or face the consequence." Ethan took a step forward. "No, wait!" But the guards grabbed his arms and led him away from the ruins. The cold wind whipped against his face as he was taken toward a glowing chamber deep within the alien camp. Behind him, Soraya stood still, clutching the food he had given her. Her eyes followed him, a mix of anger, fear, and something he couldn't understand. The night sky above was filled with twin moons, pale and distant. Ethan stared up at them, wondering what kind of madness he had just stepped into. He had only tried to help someone hungry. Now, by alien law, he was engaged to her. As the doors closed behind him, Soraya's whisper carried faintly through the wind. "Human, do you even know what you just did?" And Ethan realized, no, he didn't, not yet. But by tomorrow he would. Ethan didn't sleep that night. The alien guards had locked him in a circular chamber made of silver stone. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, whispering in an unknown language. Every sound, every flicker of light felt like judgment. He sat on the cold floor, head in his hands, trying to understand what had happened. He had offered food to a hungry soldier. That was all. But here in this strange world, that simple act meant something sacred, something binding. At dawn, the heavy doors slid open. Soraya stood there, flanked by 2 guards. She looked different, not weak like before. Her armor had been polished, and her long silver hair was tied high. Her golden eyes glowed softly, but there was a trace of sorrow behind them. "You must come," she said quietly. "The council waits." Ethan followed her through long corridors lined with alien soldiers. Their stares burned into him, some cold, some curious, some angry. To them, he was the human who dared to bind himself to one of their warriors. The council chamber was vast, lit by streams of blue fire rising from crystal columns. At the center sat the High Commander, an ancient Sarathi with skin like polished steel. "You are Ethan Cole of Earth?" The commander's deep voice echoed. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes, and I think there's been a huge misunderstanding." The commander leaned forward. "You shared food with a Sarathi warrior before witnesses. Do you deny this?" "No, but I didn't know it meant—" "Meaning is not yours to choose, human," the commander interrupted sharply. "Our law is older than your species' memory. What you did carries the weight of union." Ethan looked at Soraya. She stood silently beside him, eyes downcast. "So what happens if I say no?" Ethan asked. The chamber fell silent. A female elder spoke from the shadows. "If you reject the bond, she will be shamed. Her name erased. Her blood unworthy." Ethan frowned. "That sounds cruel." "It is justice," the elder replied. Soraya finally spoke, her voice soft but steady. "Human." "Ethan, please. If you break the bond, I must answer the dishonor myself." He turned toward her. "You mean—" She nodded. "Death." Ethan's heart pounded. "That's insane." "I didn't want to hurt anyone." The commander's eyes glowed faintly. "Then honor your promise. Complete the union." "But I never made a promise," Ethan shouted. His voice echoed through the hall, but no one moved. Soraya looked up at him then, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps not with words," she said, "but with action. My people believe what you do speaks louder than what you say." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "So what now? You just expect me to marry you?" Soraya's jaw tightened. "It is not about want. It is about duty." The words cut through him like ice. Duty, honor, law. Everything here felt like a trap. The commander stood. "The ceremony begins at dusk. Until then, you are bound to her care. She will prepare you for the ritual." 2 guards stepped forward, but Soraya lifted a hand. "No, I will take him." The commander studied her for a moment, then nodded. "As you wish. But remember, Soraya, if he refuses at the last moment, your blood will answer." Ethan and Soraya walked out of the chamber in silence. The corridors were filled with faint humming sounds, machines perhaps alive in their own way. Finally, Ethan spoke. "You don't really want this either, do you?" Soraya didn't look at him. "It does not matter what I want. The code binds us both," he sighed. "I wish I'd just eaten alone." For the first time, Soraya almost smiled. "On my planet, that would have been rude." They reached an open balcony overlooking the city ruins. The twin suns hung low in the sky, bathing everything in gold and blue light. Soraya turned to him. "If you truly cannot accept the bond, then end it before the ceremony." "I will. Find a way to make peace with the code." Her voice trembled slightly on the last words. Ethan looked at her. This proud, brave soldier trying to sound strong while standing on the edge of death. He felt something twist inside him. He didn't know her. He didn't even understand her people. But the thought of her dying because of his mistake felt unbearable. "I don't want anyone to die," he said quietly. "Then don't let me," she replied. Their eyes met for a long moment, human and alien, trapped by laws older than stars. A horn sounded in the distance. The dusk was near. Soraya turned away, her voice barely a whisper. "At sunset, you must choose human union or dishonor." The wind blew cold across the balcony as Ethan watched her walk away. Her shadow long against the glowing horizon. He had no idea what he would choose. But one thing was certain. His next decision would decide both their fates. The sun sank behind the jagged alien hills, painting the sky in orange and violet light. Ethan stood on the balcony where Soraya had left him hours ago, still trying to make sense of the impossible choice ahead. He was a man of science, an engineer, not a hero, not a romantic. Yet here he was, caught between two worlds, tied to an alien warrior by a law older than human civilization. When the metallic door behind him hissed open, he turned. Soraya entered, now dressed not in armor but in ceremonial robes of deep blue, woven with strands that shimmered like liquid starlight. She carried 2 cups made of crystal. "Drink," she said, placing one before him. "It is the cleansing ritual. Before the union we must share the same breath." Ethan hesitated. "You really think this will make everything right?" Soraya's expression softened a little. "Among my people, sharing breath means sharing truth. It means there will be no lies between us." He took the cup. The liquid glowed faintly. Sweet, metallic, strange. He drank. It burned his throat but left a cool aftertaste that somehow made his heart beat slow. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Outside, wind swept through the ruins, carrying echoes of the war that had ended too late for too many. Soraya finally spoke. "When I was a child, my mother told me that to share food was the same as to share your heart. She said it was the oldest law of our kind, a bond of protection and care. It is not something we take lightly." Ethan looked down at his hands. "On Earth, sharing food just means being kind." "Perhaps," she said quietly. "That is why your people survived. Kindness is something my world has long forgotten." Her voice held a weight of sadness that Ethan had not noticed before. He had seen her as proud, fierce, and unbending. But beneath that armor was someone who had lost much more than a battle. He stepped closer. "Soraya, I didn't mean to dishonor your ways. I just saw someone hungry and did what I thought was right." She met his gaze. "And that is why the stars watch you, human. You do what is right, even when it breaks the rules." A faint hum filled the room, the sound of the chamber preparing for the ritual. Blue lights began to move along the walls, circling them slowly like tiny comets. Ethan exhaled. "So what happens if I go through with this? Am I stuck here forever?" Soraya looked away toward the horizon. "If you accept the bond, you will be one of us. You will share my name, my oath, and my home. But it means you will never again be seen as only human." He blinked. "And if I refuse?" Her eyes dimmed. "Then my name will be erased from the records. I will not exist." The words hit him harder than he expected. The idea of her being wiped away, her voice, her strength, her presence, and it felt wrong. He didn't even understand why it mattered so much, but it did. He tried to think logically. This wasn't his world. This wasn't his fight. Yet something deep inside whispered that maybe this wasn't about logic at all. Maybe this was about what it meant to be human, to care, even when you shouldn't have to. Before he could speak, a deep vibration shook the floor. The great doors at the end of the hall opened, revealing a line of armored Sarathi warriors. At their front stood a tall alien male, broad, scarred, and radiating pride. He pointed at Ethan. "The outsider cannot claim her without the trial of worthiness." Soraya stepped forward sharply. "No, the law demands proof," the warrior growled. "You would bind your soul to a weak creature who cannot even fight?" Ethan's fist clenched. "I didn't ask for this, but I'm not weak." The warrior smirked. "Then prove it, human. At sunrise, face me in the trial. Win, and you may live beside her. Lose, and both your lives are forfeit." The room fell silent again. Soraya's eyes filled with something between fear and defiance. "Do not accept," she whispered. "He is trained to kill." Ethan swallowed hard. "I won't let you die because of me." Her voice trembled. "You don't understand our trials. They don't test strength. They test soul." He looked straight into her eyes. "Then maybe that's one thing humans are good at." Outside, lightning cracked across the alien sky as the suns vanished completely. The coming dawn would bring more than light. It would bring the test that would decide both their destinies. And as Ethan stood beneath the glow of strange stars, he finally realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving that even across galaxies, humanity could still mean something. The trial awaited. The twin suns rose like molten fire over the alien arena. The ground shimmered with heat and the air hummed with tension. Thousands of Sarathi stood in silence on the surrounding terraces, their eyes fixed on the center, a circular platform carved from dark crystal. Ethan stood there, alone. No armor, no weapon, just a human in a strange land facing a trial he never wanted. Across from him waited the challenger, Kareth, the towering Sarathi warrior who had demanded the duel. His armor gleamed like liquid metal and his eyes burned with pride. "This is madness," Ethan muttered under his breath. From the edge of the platform, Soraya's voice echoed, strong and desperate. "You don't have to do this." Ethan looked at her. "If I don't, they'll kill you." Kareth's deep laugh cut through the air. "You think this is about her life, human? This is about your worth. Our people do not bind themselves to the weak." The High Commander's voice boomed across the arena. "The rules of the trial are sacred. Victory is not won through blood but through will. The gods themselves will watch." The crowd pounded their staffs against the floor in unison, creating a thunder that shook the air. Then silence. A flash of light burst from the center of the platform. The crystal surface came alive, glowing blue beneath their feet. Symbols appeared, shifting, ancient, unreadable. Ethan's heartbeat quickened as the ground pulsed with energy. "What's happening?" he whispered. Soraya called out. "The trial is not fought with weapons. It will test your spirit, your truth." Before Ethan could ask more, the light swallowed him whole. The world disappeared. He opened his eyes to find himself standing in a barren desert of endless white sand. There was no sky, no wind, only silence. Then, a shadow, a figure stepped forward. It was himself. The other Ethan looked identical, but colder. His eyes sharp, his smile cruel. "Who are you?" Ethan asked. The copy smirked. "I'm the part you hide. The one that questions why you're risking your life for a stranger. You don't love her. You just don't want to feel guilty." Ethan's chest tightened. "That's not true, isn't it?" the copy said, stepping closer. "You're just a man who wants to play the hero. You don't belong here. You're pretending that one act of kindness makes you special." Ethan clenched his fists. The words cut deep, because they weren't completely wrong. But then he remembered Soraya's face when she spoke of her mother. The way her voice shook when she said she would die with honor. "No," Ethan said, standing taller. "Kindness isn't weakness. Maybe I don't understand your laws, but I know this. If helping someone is wrong, then I'll always be wrong." Light flared around him, breaking the illusion. The other Ethan vanished in a burst of white flame. The desert dissolved and the arena returned. The crowd gasped as Ethan reappeared, surrounded by blue light. Kareth was already waiting, his armor cracked and smoking. The High Commander spoke again. "The trial has revealed your truth, human. What have you learned?" Ethan looked down at his hands, then at Soraya. "That strength isn't about power. It's about choosing compassion when everything tells you not to." The Commander's expression changed. Not anger, but respect. The Sarathi murmured among themselves, uncertain. Kareth growled. "He cannot win. He's not one of us." The Commander raised a hand. "He is one of us now. The trial judges the heart, not the blood." The arena erupted in sound and shock, disbelief, awe. Soraya stepped forward, her golden eyes glistening. She knelt before Ethan, not out of duty but gratitude. "You have done what even our own cannot," she said softly. "You showed mercy in a place that forgot it existed." Ethan smiled faintly. "Guess I just didn't know the rules." The Commander struck his staff against the ground. "Then hear the verdict. The human Ethan Cole is deemed worthy. The bond is complete unless he rejects it before witnesses." The words echoed through the arena like thunder. Soraya froze. Ethan's breath caught. The entire crowd waited, holding their silence. Would he accept a life tied to another species forever? Or deny it and condemn her to death? The heat of the suns pressed down on him, and all he could hear was the sound of his own heartbeat. The next choice he made would change two worlds. The arena was silent long after the Commander's voice faded. Every Sarathi eye was fixed on the human who now stood at the center of their sacred circle. Ethan's breathing was uneven, his mind spinning. The weight of 1,000 alien stares pressed down on him, but none of that mattered. His gaze found only one. Soraya. She stood just beyond the light, still in her ceremonial armor, her golden eyes trembling like stars reflected on water. Between them stretched a silence too fragile to break. Finally, Ethan spoke. "I don't understand your world, your laws, or your gods. But I do know what I meant when I shared that food. I didn't want you to die hungry, Soraya. I just wanted you to live." Whispers rippled through the crowd. The Commander's expression softened. Soraya lowered her head, her voice quiet but filled with emotion. Then I accept that reason, human. Life shared is still life honored. The blue flames around the arena dimmed and the trial was declared complete. The crowd dispersed slowly, some in awe, others in disbelief. Ethan felt his knees weaken as the weight of the moment settled. Soraya stepped closer, extending her hand. You fought with your spirit, not your weapon. Among my people, that makes you more than a warrior. It makes you chosen. Ethan took her hand hesitantly. And what does that mean for us? Her lips curved into the faintest smile. It means we walk the same path now, even if it leads into darkness. That night, the alien city was strangely peaceful. The two moons hung low, bathing the ruins in silver light. Ethan sat beside Soraya on a high terrace overlooking the valley. The air smelled faintly of smoke and rain. Soraya spoke first. Do your people bond for life like ours? Ethan chuckled softly. Some try, most fail. Humans are good at loving, but not always good at keeping promises. She tilted her head, studying him. And you? Are you one who keeps them? Ethan looked down at his hands. I try, even when I don't understand the cost. For a long time, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't heavy now. It was calm, almost warm. Soraya's golden eyes reflected the twin moons as she said, When I saw you stand in that arena, I thought you would fall. I prayed to gods I stopped believing in long ago. And then you spoke with your heart. That is not something we are taught to do. Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe that's what your people need. A little less law and a little more heart. She turned toward him. And maybe your people need a little more honor. He laughed quietly. Touché. But the moment of peace didn't last long. A sharp metallic tone echoed through the sky. Soraya's expression darkened. That sound. It's not from our city. A beam of red light shot across the clouds, followed by the deep rumble of engines. Ships, not Sarathi, not human, broke through the atmosphere. Ethan jumped to his feet. What are those? Soraya's voice grew grim. A galactic envoy. They come from the High Council, the ones who decide the laws between worlds. Within minutes, the sky filled with armored crafts. They landed at the center square, and soldiers with glowing visors stepped out. At their front was a tall figure wrapped in a silver cloak, an envoy of the galactic law. The envoy's voice boomed through a translator. By order of the Galactic Council, this union between human and Sarathi is forbidden. It threatens the balance between our species. Ethan's jaw tightened. You can't just decide that. We didn't break anything. The envoy's gaze was cold and mechanical. Your act of bonding violates Article 9 of the Interstellar Accord. It risks cultural contamination. Soraya stepped forward, fury flashing in her eyes. He has proven his worth before our gods. No council can erase that. The envoy raised a hand. You will both come with us. The human will be sent home. The Sarathi will be detained for disobedience. Guards moved closer. Ethan's pulse quickened. No, she's not going anywhere. Soraya stood beside him, her voice fierce. We stand together. The envoy turned to the commander. Will your people defy the law? The commander hesitated, torn between loyalty to tradition and fear of the galactic power. Our code binds them, he said finally. But our world cannot challenge the stars. Soraya's hand brushed Ethan's arm. A silent apology. A silent goodbye. The envoy nodded coldly. Then it is settled. The bond is void. The alien female will be taken. Guards reached for her. Ethan stepped forward, heart pounding. If you take her, you'll have to go through me. The envoy's eyes glowed faintly red. You are brave, human. But bravery will not save you. A surge of light flashed. A stun field ready to strike. Soraya's voice broke through the chaos. Ethan, don't fight, but it was too late. The light hit. Everything went white. As Ethan fell to his knees, his last vision was Soraya's face, fierce, beautiful, and terrified. Then darkness swallowed him whole. When Ethan woke, the world was silent. His head throbbed, his body felt heavy, and the air smelled of ozone and metal. He lay on a smooth floor, cold and glowing faintly with blue light. Around him, walls curved like glass, transparent, showing the endless black of space. He wasn't on the planet anymore. Ethan pushed himself up, wincing. Outside the chamber, alien ships drifted silently past, the insignia of the Galactic Council shining like a brand of power. He was inside their flagship. Footsteps echoed. The envoy entered, tall, silver-skinned, face hidden behind a reflective mask. "You're awake," it said in its flat, emotionless tone. "You are fortunate. The stun charge was meant for suppression, not destruction." Ethan's voice came out rough. "Where's Soraya?" The envoy didn't answer immediately. "She is being held separately. Her defiance will be judged. You, however, are to be returned to your species." Ethan stood, anger sharpening his exhaustion. "Returned? Like cargo?" "You are an anomaly," the envoy said. "A human who crossed the boundaries of custom and law. You acted with emotion rather than discipline. That makes you dangerous." Ethan's jaw clenched. "If caring about someone makes me dangerous, maybe your laws are the real problem." The envoy tilted its head slightly. "Your words reflect the chaos of your kind. The Council preserves order. The Sarathi Code is theirs to follow. You have interfered." "Then let me talk to her," Ethan said. "Just once. That's all I ask." The envoy studied him for a long, silent moment, then gestured toward the far wall. A door appeared, seamless, smooth, and glowing. "You will have 5 minutes." The chamber beyond was small, dimly lit. Soraya sat on the floor, wrists bound by energy bands, her eyes distant. When she saw Ethan, she tried to rise, but the restraints held her down. "Ethan," she whispered. He knelt beside her. "They said you'll be tried." "What does that mean?" She shook her head. "It means exile or death. They call our bond contamination. They say it could start rebellion between worlds." He touched her hand gently, feeling the faint hum of the energy cuffs. "This is insane. You didn't do anything wrong." Her voice trembled. "I broke their faith. I chose a human over my own kind. To them, that is betrayal." Ethan's throat tightened. "Then I'll tell them the truth, that it was my fault, that I didn't know." Soraya looked at him, tears glimmering in her golden eyes. "They don't care about truth. They care about control." He wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. The Council's power wasn't built on justice. It was built on obedience. A silence settled between them, soft and heavy. Then Soraya whispered, "You could leave, Ethan. They'll let you go. Live your life." "Forget this," Ethan shook his head. "Forget you? After everything?" "You don't belong in chains," she said. "You're human. You belong among your people under your own sky." Ethan stared at her, realizing she was trying to save him, even now, even while she was the one condemned. He thought of her courage, her strange mix of strength and tenderness, her fierce loyalty to a code that had never shown her mercy. And he knew in that moment, he couldn't walk away. He stood. "Then I'll change the sky." Before Soraya could speak, the door opened. The envoy stood there again. "Time is over." Ethan turned to it, calm but firm. "I'm not leaving without her." "You have no authority to decide that," the envoy replied. "Maybe not," Ethan said. "But I have something your laws can't control. Choice." He took a step closer. "You talk about order and purity, but what's the point if it kills everything good?" "She saved my life. Her people taught me honor." "Isn't that what unity is supposed to mean?" The envoy was silent. The mask's reflection showed only Ethan's determined face. "Take me instead," Ethan said suddenly. "Exile me, punish me, but let her live." Soraya's voice broke. "No," the envoy raised a hand, halting her. "You would sacrifice yourself for one not of your kind?" Ethan met its gaze. "That's what being human means." The silence that followed felt eternal. Then the envoy's voice lowered. "The Council will not approve. But the law allows choice if witnessed by both parties." The energy cuffs released. Soraya fell forward, catching herself, staring in disbelief. Ethan smiled faintly. "Looks like we both get a choice now." Soraya stood shakily. "If you stay, they'll destroy you." He shrugged lightly. "Then at least I'll go down doing something right." The envoy turned away. "You will both appear before judgment at dawn. Choose your words carefully. Human. They may decide more than one life." As the door sealed again, Soraya turned to Ethan, eyes shining with fear and gratitude. "You're impossible," she whispered. He smiled. "Yeah, humans usually are." Outside the ship's window, the stars burned like watching eyes, cold, distant, and endless. But for the first time since this began, Ethan didn't feel small before them. He felt ready. At dawn, he would face the galaxy itself and make his choice count. The galactic dawn came without sunlight, only the slow awakening of stars through the ship's great window. The courtroom aboard the council flagship glowed with silver light. It wasn't a place for justice. It was a place for judgment. Ethan stood in the center of a vast circular platform. High above him, 12 figures of the Galactic Council floated in seats of light, their faces hidden behind masks of glass and metal. The air was cold, thin, and filled with the hum of power. Beside him stood Soraya, now free of her restraints but still under guard. Her golden eyes burned bright despite the fear she tried to hide. The envoy stepped forward, voice echoing across the chamber. Counselors, the case before you concerns a violation of interstellar law, the bonding of a human and a Sarathi warrior through an unapproved ritual. The question, does emotion justify breaking order? Ethan felt every gaze turn toward him. The pressure was crushing, but he refused to lower his head. One of the masked counselors spoke, the voice ancient and weary. Human, you claim your actions were born of compassion, yet compassion without order brings chaos. What say you? Ethan took a slow breath. You talk about chaos like it's a disease, but maybe it's what keeps us alive. You've built walls around every feeling, honor, love, kindness, and called it law. But what's left when law forgets the heart? The chamber stirred. Even the envoy tilted its head slightly, surprised. Another counselor leaned forward. You would rewrite our traditions for one act of sentiment? Ethan met the invisible eyes behind the mask. I'm not rewriting anything. I'm just asking you to see what's already true. Humanity and the Sarathi are not enemies. We're both survivors. And maybe sharing a meal shouldn't start a war. Maybe it should start peace. Soraya stepped forward then, her voice strong. He speaks truth. Our code was made in a time when love was weakness. But I have seen strength in his mercy. I saw it when he stood against death for me. And when he fought your trial not with hate, but with heart. The counselors murmured among themselves, their voices low, uncertain. Then a deep voice, and the oldest of them all, had cut through the whispers. Sarathi warrior, would you defy your own gods for this human? Soraya straightened. No, I would honor them by standing beside him. The envoy turned to the council. The law offers two outcomes, separation or unity. If unity is chosen, the bond must be acknowledged across species. It would change the code itself. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The very idea was heresy. The elder counselor's tone hardened. To grant this would mean rewriting centuries of order. Ethan took a step forward. Then write something better. The silence that followed felt endless. For a heartbeat, it seemed the stars themselves were waiting. Finally, the eldest counselor raised a hand. The law is decided by will. The council shall vote. Each figure lifted a hand of light. One by one, beams glowed across the chamber. Some white, some red. When the final beam faded, the count was clear. 6 for mercy, 6 for law, a tie. The envoy turned slowly to Ethan and Soraya. In the case of a tie, it said, the decision falls to the one who began the act. Ethan blinked. You mean me? Yes, the one who shared the food must share the fate. Soraya looked at him, her eyes wide, pleading. Whatever you choose, human. I will not regret meeting you. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He thought of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, the quiet hum of a life he once had. And then he thought of her. The way she had stood for him, fought for him, believed in him. He smiled softly. Then I choose unity. The words rang out like thunder. The chamber exploded with light. The council's seals shattered, their ancient laws rewriting themselves in golden script across the air. The envoy stepped back, shielding its eyes. A warmth spread through the platform. The binding energy of two souls from different worlds joining in truth, not law. Ethan felt Soraya's hand slip into his. Her skin was cool, glowing faintly where they touched. The council's voices echoed together. So it is written. The first bond between human and Sarathi shall stand. Hours later, the two of them stood beneath the vast dome of the ship's observation deck. Stars drifted by like rivers of fire. The galaxy had changed, though few would understand how deeply. Soraya looked at him with a small, tender smile. You defied the council, the gods, and half the galaxy. All for one meal. Ethan laughed quietly. Guess I just really hate eating alone. She shook her head, but her smile stayed. Your people are strange. He looked out the window, the reflection of starlight in his eyes. Maybe strange is what the universe needed. A moment of peace settled over them. The war, the laws, the fear, all of it felt far away now. Only the stars and their promise remained. Soraya leaned closer, her voice soft. Next time, human. Maybe ask before you share food. Ethan grinned. Next time, maybe say yes before I do. And as their laughter echoed into the endless dark, the stars themselves seemed to burn a little brighter. Two worlds finally learning to share the same sky.